Hello there. Before we step together into the dark and chilling world of the Night Weaver, a story that will test both your courage and your sanity, I'd like to invite you to hit the subscribe button on our channel or page. Doing so will ensure you never miss another gripping tale, while also giving us the motivation to keep bringing you the highest quality content. Thank you for your support. Now, take a deep breath and hold on tight, because the journey we're about to embark on is not for the faint of heart. The city of Verdant Falls, nestled serenely in the Pacific Northwest, had long prided itself on its harmonious blend of urban sophistication and natural beauty. Its skyline, a jagged crown of glass and steel, rose from the embrace of ancient evergreen forests, perpetually shrouded in a gentle mist. Verdant Falls was a place where artisanal coffee shops thrived on every corner, where tech giants coexisted with bohemian art collectives, and where the daily rhythm was often dictated by the soft patter of rain and the distant cry of gulls. It was a city of quiet confidence, a place where people left their doors unlocked and children played unsupervised in tree-lined parks. Until the night the music stopped. It began subtly, a discordant note in the city's symphony, barely audible at first. A missing person report filed late on a Tuesday, then another on a Friday. Unsettling, perhaps, but not uncommon in a bustling metropolis. People vanished for various reasons: new beginnings, old debts, the quiet despair of a life unfulfilled. The Verdant Falls Police Department, VFPD, handled hundreds of such cases annually, most resolved with a phone call or a chance sighting. But these two, Eleanor Vance, a vibrant, ambitious architect, and Marcus Thorne, a reclusive but well-regarded librarian, felt different. Their lives, though disparate, were anchored in the city, their disappearances leaving behind not just voids, but echoing silences. Their apartments were tidy, their calendars marked, their digital footprints abruptly truncated. It was as if they had simply ceased to be, swallowed by the very air they breathed. Detective Miles Corbin, a man whose face carried the topography of 2 decades spent grappling with humanity's darker impulses, felt the first prickle of unease. His office, perpetually smelling of stale coffee and worn leather, was his sanctuary, a place where the chaos of the outside world could be methodically dissected. Corbin was a relic, a detective from a bygone era, favoring gut instinct and shoe leather over the glow of a computer screen, though he appreciated the latter's utility. His partner, Detective Anya Sharma, was his antithesis: young, sharp, and fluent in the digital dialect of the 21st century. She saw patterns in data that Corbin perceived in a suspect's shifty gaze. Together, they were an effective, if sometimes argumentative, duo. "Anything on Vance or Thorne, Miles?" Sharma asked, leaning against the doorframe of Corbin's office, a tablet clutched in her hand. Her dark hair was pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, her eyes, intelligent and weary beyond her years, scanning the news feeds. Corbin grunted, pushing a stack of cold case files aside to reveal a half-eaten sandwich. Nada. Clean breaks. No forced entry, no struggle. Just gone. Like ghosts. He took a bite, the sound too loud in the quiet office. Vance's credit cards haven't been touched. Thorne's library overdue notices are piling up. Not exactly the profile of a runaway. Or a kidnapping for ransom, Sharma added, scrolling through a digital newspaper. No demands, no threats. Just silence. It's unnerving. She paused, her finger hovering over an article. Small blurb here. Local residents express concern over recent disappearances. Starting to get traction. Corbin nodded slowly, his gaze distant, already sifting through the layers of the unseen. People are always concerned, Anya, until it's on their doorstep. He paused, then leaned forward, his voice dropping. But there's a whisper, isn't there? A sense that this isn't just 2 isolated incidents. Sharma met his gaze, a flicker of something she rarely showed, raw apprehension in her eyes. Yeah, there is. The whisper, however, was about to become a scream. The 3rd disappearance occurred a week later, shaking Verdant Falls from its placid slumber like a sudden, violent tremor. This time, it wasn't a professional or a recluse, but a young, aspiring musician named Chloe Peterson. Chloe, a vibrant soul with a laugh that could fill a room, had been last seen leaving a late-night rehearsal at a downtown studio, guitar case slung over her shoulder. Her bandmates had waved goodbye, promising to catch up for breakfast the next day. Breakfast never came. Her apartment, like the others, was undisturbed. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle. Just an open window and the faint, lingering scent of jasmine. But this time there was a difference. A message. Not a ransom note, not a taunt, but a single, meticulously tied knot of crimson silk, left precisely in the center of Chloe's otherwise immaculate living room floor. It was delicate, intricate, almost beautiful in its macabre precision, a stark contrast to the terror it implicitly conveyed. When Corbin and Sharma arrived at the scene, the air was thick with the scent of fear and the acrid tang of police forensics. Crime scene technicians, grim-faced and methodical, moved with practiced efficiency, their camera flashes momentarily illuminating the darkened apartment. The knot lay under a harsh floodlight, a tiny, vibrant splash of color against the beige carpet. "Jesus Christ," Corbin muttered, his voice hoarse, his gaze fixed on the silk. "What the hell is that?" Sharma, already taking photos with her phone for quick reference, zoomed in. "Looks like a decorative knot. Specific kind. Not something you'd tie by accident. Deliberate." She knelt, careful not to disturb anything, her eyes narrowed. "And silk. High quality, I'd say." Detective Sergeant Reyes, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude and a reputation for breaking impossible cases, arrived shortly after, her face a mask of grim determination. She took one look at the knot, then at Corbin. "We have a problem, Miles." "We've had a problem since Eleanor Vance, Commander," Corbin corrected, standing slowly. "Now we have a signature." The discovery of the silk knot ignited a firestorm. The media, which had previously only noted the disappearances with cautious detachment, now descended on Verdant Falls like a flock of hungry vultures. Local news channels ran non-stop segments, interviewing distraught family members, fearful neighbors, and baffled police spokespersons. National outlets picked up the story, splashing headlines across their front pages: "Emerald City Vanishings," "The Silent Predator of Verdant Falls." The nickname Emerald City, for Verdant Falls, once a point of pride, now carried a sinister undertone, reflecting the verdant, deceptively beautiful exterior that hid a growing darkness. Fear, a cold, insidious entity, began to seep into the city's very foundations. People stopped walking alone at night. Parks, once bustling with joggers and dog walkers, became eerily quiet after dusk. Businesses saw a sharp decline in evening customers. Parents, once trusting, now held their children's hands tighter, their eyes scanning every shadow. The vibrant pulse of Verdant Falls, usually a confident thrum, had become a nervous flutter. The VFPD's command center transformed into a war room. Maps of Verdant Falls covered entire walls, dotted with red markers indicating the victims' last known locations and residences. White bards were scrawled with theories, timelines, and suspect profiles. The air hummed with the frantic energy of dozens of officers working around the clock, fueled by caffeine and an increasing sense of urgency. Corbin and Sharma were at the heart of it all. They spent endless hours poring over CCTV footage, searching for any anomaly, any flicker of a shadow that didn't belong. They interviewed hundreds of people, family, friends, colleagues, anyone who might have had contact with the victims in the days leading up to their disappearances. Each interview yielded similar results. The victims were well-liked, without known enemies, living seemingly normal lives. And each interview ended with the same chilling absence of information about the how. "It's like they just blinked out of existence," Sharma said one night, rubbing her temples, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. They were reviewing a grainy security camera feed from a coffee shop near Chloe Peterson's apartment. A figure, indistinct in the shadows, seemed to linger for a moment, then merge with the darkness. "He's good, Anya," Corbin responded, his gaze fixed on the screen. "Too good. No forced entry. No struggle. This isn't a brute force job. This is an invitation, or a deception." The knots became the focus. Forensics meticulously analyzed the crimson silk. It was a rare, high-quality Japanese silk, dyed using traditional methods, almost certainly custom-ordered. The knot itself, an intricate butterfly knot, also known as a lineman's rider, was perfectly formed, a testament to skill and precision. It wasn't a common knot. It was specific, esoteric. "It speaks volumes about our unsub," said Dr. Evelyn Reed, a renowned criminal psychologist from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, who had been brought in to assist. Reed was sharp, analytical, and possessed an unsettling ability to see into the minds of monsters. She stood before a group of tired detectives, gesturing towards a projection of the knot. "This isn't just a calling card. It's a statement, a display of control, artistry, and perhaps a twisted sense of pride. The butterfly knot is used to create a loop in the middle of a rope, often to isolate a damaged section or for climbing. It's strong, secure, and difficult to undo under tension. Our killer is telling us he's secure, he's in control, and he's holding his victims in a binding that is difficult to break." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "He's meticulous, patient, and highly intelligent. The lack of struggle implies either surprise, seduction, or a position of trust. The choice of victims, initially disparate, might point to an underlying symbolic connection that we haven't identified yet. He's testing us. He's enjoying this, and he's evolving." Reed's words hung heavy in the air, a chilling confirmation of Corbin's own growing dread. The killer wasn't just taking lives. He was weaving a narrative, pulling the city into his macabre design. The media, fueled by Reed's psychological profile, leaked, as all things eventually were, christened him the Midnight Weaver. The name stuck, echoing through the city like a death knell. The pressure on the VFPD was immense. Public outrage mounted with each passing day. The mayor, a polished politician named Richard Thorne, no relation to the victim, held increasingly frequent and increasingly agitated press conferences, promising swift justice, but offering little in the way of concrete progress. His words, once reassuring, now sounded hollow, lost in the collective scream of a terrified populace. Corbin and Sharma, meanwhile, found themselves drawn deeper into the killer's twisted world. They spent hours visiting textile stores, craft shops, and even historical weaving guilds, desperately searching for anyone who recognized the specific silk or the unique knot. They showed photos of the knot to anyone who would look, enduring confused stares and occasional fear. The crimson silk was almost certainly custom-dyed, a rare shade that hinted at a specific, perhaps artisanal source. They traced dye manufacturers, silk importers, even small-batch textile artists across the Pacific Northwest, but every lead seemed to dissolve into nothing. "It's like finding a needle in a haystack made of other needles," Sharma grumbled one afternoon, slamming a stack of printouts onto her desk. They were surrounded by maps, diagrams of knots, and profiles of missing persons. "Everyone knows knots. Everyone buys silk. How do we narrow this down?" Corbin, staring intently at a photograph of the knot, noticed something. It wasn't just the knot itself, but the way the silk had been cut. Clean, precise cut, almost surgical. Not torn, not frayed. He pointed it out to Sharma. "Look at the ends, Anya. See that? It's not just an ordinary pair of scissors. That's a very sharp blade. Precision tool. Maybe a tailor's shears. Or something even more specific." This observation, though seemingly minor, breathed new life into their stalled investigation. They shifted their focus to individuals with access to specialized cutting tools and an interest in intricate crafts. The search widened, then narrowed again, but still yielded no immediate suspects. The killer was a ghost, a shadow in the rain-slicked streets, leaving behind only the chilling beauty of his signature. Then came the fourth victim. The discovery was devastating, not just because of the life lost, but because of the sheer audacity of the killer. Jeremy Hayes, a popular local barista and amateur photographer, vanished after his shift at a bustling coffee shop. His disappearance, unlike the others, was witnessed. A brief, fleeting glimpse by a late-night street sweeper. A struggle, a shadowy figure, then a dark van speeding away into the night. The street sweeper, shaken, could offer little beyond vague descriptions. But Hayes wasn't found in a quiet apartment. He was found the next morning, meticulously positioned, almost artfully arranged, on the steps of the Verdant Falls City Hall, directly beneath the mayor's office window. A crimson silk knot, larger and more elaborate than the others, was placed on his chest, almost like a macabre badge of honor. The scene was a spectacle of horror and defiance. Hundreds gathered, gawking, weeping, screaming at the police cordon. Reporters shouted questions, their cameras flashing relentlessly. The mayor, pale and visibly shaken, made a brief, strained appearance, his face a grim testament to the city's unraveling. The Midnight Weaver wasn't just taking lives. He was directly challenging the authorities, mocking their inability to stop him, displaying his gruesome trophies in the very heart of their power. Corbin stood amidst the chaos, the cold rain plastering his trench coat to his body, his gaze fixed on Hayes's lifeless form. The meticulously tied knot, bathed in the harsh glare of emergency lights, seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of its own. He felt a profound sense of helplessness, a burning frustration that clawed at his gut. The killer was out there, watching, perhaps even relishing the scene he had orchestrated. "He's escalating," Sharma said, her voice barely audible over the din. She stood beside Corbin, her face grim. "He wants us to know he's here. He wants us to see him. And we still don't know who the hell he is," Corbin replied, his voice a low growl. He clenched his fists, the rain running down his face, blurring his vision. The fear in Verdant Falls was no longer a whisper. It was a roaring typhoon, threatening to tear the city apart. And they, the Guardians, felt utterly powerless to stop it. The Midnight Weaver had cast his shadow, and it was deepening, consuming everything in its path. The once vibrant Emerald City was now cloaked in a perpetual, terrifying dusk. The hunt had just begun, and it promised to be a long, brutal descent into darkness. The first thread had been pulled, and the entire fabric of Verdant Falls was starting to fray. Every street, every building, every face in the crowd seemed to hold a secret, a potential clue, or a chilling reflection of the monster who walked among them. The city was a maze, and the Weaver was always one step ahead. The brazen display at City Hall plunged Verdant Falls into a state of panic rarely seen outside of natural disasters. Schools implemented stricter security, some even closing temporarily. Businesses that relied on evening traffic suffered catastrophic losses. A palpable tension hung in the air, a collective breath held, waiting for the next strike. The name Midnight Weaver became a terrifying whisper, spoken in hushed tones, conjuring images of a shadowy specter that moved through the city with impunity. The VFPD, already stretched thin, faced unprecedented pressure. The mayor's office demanded results. National media outlets camped outside headquarters, and public trust eroded with each passing, fruitless day. The task force grew exponentially, incorporating resources from state police and the FBI's regional office, transforming the war room into a cacophony of voices, theories, and dead ends. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the FBI profiler, became a fixture, her sharp intellect cutting through the noise. "He's no longer content with anonymity," she explained during a tense morning briefing. Her eyes, cool and analytical, scanned the exhausted faces of the detectives. "This latest act at City Hall is a direct challenge. He's taunting us. He believes he's superior, smarter than law enforcement. This escalation means he's gaining confidence, and that can lead to mistakes, but it also means he's becoming more dangerous, more unpredictable." Reed's profile painted a chilling picture. An organized, highly intelligent male, likely in his late 20s to early 40s, meticulous and cunning. He derived gratification not just from the act of killing, but from the sense of control and the fear he instilled. His choice of the butterfly knot and the exquisite silk suggested an aesthetic sensibility, a dark artistry. He might be someone who feels overlooked, unseen in society, but secretly believes himself to be extraordinary, Reed theorized. His art, is his way of demanding recognition, of asserting his dominance over the very city that he perceives has ignored him. The symbol of the knot, she posited, could represent the complex, interconnected nature of his grievance, or perhaps a binding to a personal history. Corbin and Sharma, now working almost exclusively on the Weaver case, felt the weight of the city's fear pressing down on them. Their lives had been consumed by the hunt. Sleep was a luxury, home a distant memory. Corbin's wife, Sarah, called less often, her voice tinged with a weariness that mirrored his own. Sharma, usually stoic, found herself flinching at unexpected noises, her dreams haunted by silk knots and vanishing faces. The investigation, despite the increased manpower, felt like chasing smoke. The lack of physical evidence at the initial crime scenes was infuriating. The clean cuts on the silk, the specific dye, the intricate knot, these were their only tangible clues. The search for the source of the silk and the expertise in knot tying broadened. They interviewed fabric suppliers, hobbyists, former Boy Scout leaders, sailors, anyone with a remote connection to rope work. The artisanal dye technique pointed towards a very specific, almost anachronistic interest. They even consulted with a renowned maritime knot expert, an old, eccentric man who lived on a houseboat in the Puget Sound, who confirmed the complexity of the butterfly knot, noting it was typically used for specific load-bearing applications and required deliberate practice skill. "This isn't just for show, detective," the old man had rasped, his gnarled fingers expertly tying the knot with a piece of twine. "This is a knot that holds. It binds. It doesn't slip. Whoever ties this knows what they're doing. They're precise. They're deliberate." This reinforced Reed's profile. The weaver was a man of precision and control. Weeks bled into months. 2 more victims disappeared. Clara Davies, a beloved high school English teacher, and David Chun, a software engineer known for his quiet brilliance. Their disappearances mirrored the others'. No forced entry, no struggle, just the chilling presence of a meticulously placed crimson silk knot. This time, the knots were slightly different, a subtle variation on the butterfly knot, indicating the killer's continued evolution, his dark experimentation. The locations of their disappearances formed a loose, unsettling pattern on the Verdant Falls map, a rough triangle, almost as if he was marking out territory, or playing a gruesome game of connect the dots. The public outcry reached a fever pitch. Vigilante groups formed, patrolling neighborhoods with flashlights and a misplaced sense of purpose. Whispers of distrust turned into accusations. Neighbors eyed neighbors with suspicion. The city, once a tapestry of diverse communities, began to unravel, replaced by fear and division. Amidst the growing despair, a small, almost imperceptible breakthrough emerged. Dr. Lee, the lead forensic entomologist, had found microscopic fragments of a unique fiber on one of the silk knots. Not silk, but an unusual blend of linen and fine-gauge copper wire, too small to be seen with the naked eye. It was consistent with a very specialized type of textile, often used in high-end, bespoke tailoring or, more rarely, in certain types of artistic weaving to give fabric structure. "This is gold, Anya," Corbin said, his eyes alight with a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in weeks. "This isn't just silk. This is a specific environment. A workshop. A very particular kind of craft." Sharma immediately pivoted the investigation, redirecting resources to specialized tailors, textile art studios, and even metalworking guilds that might incorporate fine copper wire into their designs. They scoured business licenses, online craft forums, and art school alumni lists. The criteria for suspects became incredibly narrow. Someone with access to high-quality silk, knowledge of intricate knots, and this very unique linen copper fiber, all while maintaining a low profile. The search led them, after countless dead ends, to a small, unassuming textile repair shop called the Threaded and Ville, tucked away in a quiet, forgotten corner of downtown. The owner was a man named Arthur Finch. Finch was an anomaly. In his mid-30s, he lived alone above his shop, a quiet, unassuming man with spectacles perched on his nose and hands that, despite their calloused appearance, moved with the delicate precision of a surgeon. He specialized in restoring antique textiles, repairing delicate tapestries, and crafting bespoke ties and scarves using traditional, often forgotten, methods. He was known for his incredible skill, his meticulous attention to detail, and his almost reclusive nature. He rarely socialized, his world confined to the intricate patterns and textures of fabric. Corbin and Sharma first visited Finch under the guise of inquiring about a custom scarf. The shop was a treasure trove of fabrics, needles, and threads. The air was thick with the scent of aged linen, wool, and the subtle, earthy aroma of natural dyes. On a workbench, under a precise halogen lamp, sat a spool of crimson silk, an identical shade to the one found at the crime scenes. Corbin's heart gave a jolt. He subtly gestured to the spool. "That's beautiful silk, Mr. Finch. Where do you source it?" Finch, a nervous tick in his left eye, adjusted his spectacles. "Ah yes, Japanese Kumo silk. Very rare. I custom order it from a small artisan in Kyoto. It's hand-dyed using an ancient vegetable pigment. Exquisite, isn't it?" His voice was soft, almost a whisper, but held an underlying current of intense passion when he spoke of his craft. Sharma, feigning interest in a swatch of linen, discreetly ran her finger over a piece of fabric on a cutting table. She felt a subtle, almost metallic, stiffness. "And this fabric, Mr. Finch? What's this blend?" Finch picked it up, his slender fingers smoothing the texture. "Ah, that's my own creation. Linen, interwoven with a fine copper filament. Gives the textile wonderful rigidity for structural work. I use it for my more challenging restorations, or sometimes to create unique sculptural pieces." He seemed almost proud, his quiet reserve momentarily dissolving. Corbin and Sharma exchanged a look. The pieces were beginning to fit, chillingly. The unique silk, the custom dye, the linen copper fiber, the meticulous precision, and the quiet, almost invisible man who possessed all these unique skills and materials. Yet, Finch had no criminal record, no history of violence. He seemed utterly innocuous, almost fragile. The psychological profile of a proud, cunning serial killer seemed utterly at odds with the gentle, reclusive textile artist. They left the shop, their minds reeling. "He fits miles," Sharma whispered. As they walked down the street, the rain beginning to fall again. "Every single detail, but he's so meek, so quiet." Corbin stared back at the shop, the warm glow of its interior light a stark contrast to the darkness he now associated with it. "That's how they hide Anya, the quiet ones, the ones nobody notices. He's been invisible his whole life, and now he's making the whole city notice him." Their investigation became an intense, clandestine surveillance operation. Every aspect of Arthur Finch's life was meticulously scrutinized. They discovered he lived a solitary existence, his only social interactions revolving around his work. He had no friends, no family nearby, no romantic entanglements. His online presence was minimal, consisting mostly of obscure textile art forums where he posted intricate designs, sometimes using the username The Weaver. One night, while observing Finch's apartment from a discreet distance, Sharma noticed something peculiar. Finch, usually meticulously tidy, had a pile of books on his windowsill. Among them, a well-worn copy of a book on advanced knot-tying techniques, with several pages dog-eared. And next to it, a historical text on urban planning and societal decay, its margins filled with frantic, precise annotations about the superficiality and moral decay of modern cities. Corbin's mind raced, connecting the dots. The Emerald City of Verdant Falls, with its gleaming skyscrapers and artisanal culture, might represent everything Finch resented. The superficiality, the perceived lack of authenticity, the feeling of being an overlooked, essential cog in a machine that valued flash over substance. The victims, too, began to show a subtle connection: a high-flying architect, a reclusive academic, a vibrant musician, a public-facing barista, a respected teacher, a cutting-edge engineer. Each, in their own way, represented a facet of Verdant Falls' public image, its perceived success, its modern vibrancy. Finch, the silent artisan, felt invisible, while these individuals shone. He was weaving his revenge, binding them to his silent, resentful rage. The pieces coalesced into a terrifying mosaic. Arthur Finch, the unassuming textile artist, was the midnight weaver. The methodical precision, the artistic signature, the reclusive nature, the deep-seated resentment, it all fit Reed's profile with chilling accuracy. The decision was made to move in. The pressure on the VFPD was insurmountable, and the evidence, while circumstantial, was overwhelming. They had their suspect. The city, unknowingly, held its breath. The final act of the Midnight Weaver's terrifying play was about to begin, and Corbin knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that this encounter would not be quiet. He had woven his web, and now they were coming to unravel it. The confrontation was inevitable, and the fate of Verdant Falls hung precariously in the balance, waiting to see if the threads of terror could finally be cut. The raid on Arthur Finch's shop and apartment was executed under the cloak of a cold, ceaseless rain, typical of Verdant Falls. SWAT teams moved with practiced silence, their forms merging with the oppressive gloom of the pre-dawn hours. Corbin and Sharma, alongside Commander Reyes and Dr. Reed, watched from a discreet distance, the tension in the air thick enough to taste. Their intelligence suggested Finch was alone, but his meticulous nature implied he would be prepared. The front door of the threaded anvil was breached with a sharp, explosive crack, followed by a torrent of shouted commands. A flurry of movement, then silence. A voice crackled over the radio. Perimeter secure. Building clear. No sign of the suspect in the shop. Moving to the apartment above. Corbin felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Finch wasn't there. He was a creature of precision. This felt too clumsy, too straightforward. A moment later, another report. Apartment clear. Suspect not present. Looks like he left in a hurry. A collective groan went through the command center. Finch had evaded them. He had been aware. The subtle signs, a faint flicker of the apartment light late at night, a slight alteration in his routine. He must have sensed the surveillance, or perhaps, he simply anticipated it. His confidence had transformed into arrogance, an expectation that he was always one step ahead. "He's on the move," Dr. Reed said, her voice sharp and urgent. "This isn't random. He's making a statement. He anticipated this. He wants us to chase him." And chase him they did. A citywide alert was immediately issued. Finch's photo splashed across every news channel, every digital billboard. The quiet, unassuming textile artist was now the face of terror, the Midnight Weaver finally unmasked. Hours later, a new crime scene was reported. Not a disappearance this time, but a chilling discovery. The body of a prominent local journalist, Sarah Jenkins, who had been relentlessly covering the Weaver case, was found in a small, seldom-used gallery space in the city's art district. She was meticulously arranged, almost posed on a plinth, surrounded by intricate tapestries, her eyes wide with terror. On her chest lay a crimson silk knot, larger and more elaborate than any before, intertwined with strands of her own hair, a horrifying, personal flourish. A note, carefully placed beside the knot, was addressed directly to Detective Miles Corbin. It was written in elegant, flowing script, the letters almost as meticulously crafted as his knots. "Detective Corbin, you seek to unravel what I have so carefully woven. But you see only the threads, not the grand design. You are blinded by your mundane understanding of justice. This city, this emerald jewel, is rotting from within, its beauty superficial, its inhabitants ignorant. I am merely revealing the truth, binding them to their own neglected reality. You think you hunt me? No, detective. I am merely leading you to my masterpiece. The final thread will be the most beautiful of all. Come, unravel me if you can." The note was a gauntlet thrown down, a direct challenge, a horrifying invitation. Finch was not just killing. He was creating a performance, a morbid narrative, and he had cast Corbin as his unwitting co-star. Corbin read the note, his hands trembling slightly, a cold fury coiling in his gut. "He wants me," he growled, slamming the note down. "He wants me to play his game. Dr. Reed, however, saw something more. He's arrogant, but also deeply insecure. This grandiosity, this need for Corbin to understand his design, it speaks to a profound narcissism. He's building to a crescendo, but also to his own downfall. He thinks he's in control, but he's desperate for an audience, for validation. And that desperation will make him predictable. She pointed to a specific phrase in the note. The final thread will be the most beautiful of all. He's telling us he has one more ultimate act planned. Something truly spectacular in his eyes. Sharma, meanwhile, had been studying the context of the journalist's discovery. Why the art gallery? This isn't random. Jenkins was a critic, but also an advocate for local artists. Finch, an artisan. Maybe it's a connection to his past, a place where he felt his art wasn't appreciated, or where he felt overlooked. They dispatched teams to every art gallery, every cultural center, every place of public significance connected to the arts or Verdant Falls' superficial beauty. Finch's annotations in the urban planning book also proved crucial. He had highlighted passages about the city's architectural marvels, its botanical gardens, its grand, historic library. Suddenly, a call came in from the public library. An alert librarian reported seeing a man matching Finch's description in the rare book section, specifically near the archives containing ancient textile and knot-tying manuals. The librarian described him as agitated, muttering to himself, almost as if he was searching for something, or perhaps placing something. Corbin and Sharma raced to the library. The building, a grand edifice of stone and glass, was a symbol of Verdant Falls' intellectual pride. It was a place of quiet contemplation, now a potential stage for the weaver's final act. They moved through the hushed halls, the scent of old paper and dust filling the air. The rare books section was labyrinthine, shelves rising to the ceiling, creating secluded alcoves. As they rounded a corner, they saw him, Arthur Finch. He stood perfectly still, bathed in the soft, diffused light filtering through a stained glass window, a small, ornate dagger clutched in his hand. Before him, meticulously arranged on a table covered in a white linen cloth, were a selection of rare books, open to illustrations of intricate knots. And in the center, a single pristine white silk thread, the longest and most delicate yet, leading into the shadows of a recessed alcove. "Corbin," Finch said, his voice surprisingly calm, almost serene. He didn't turn, his gaze fixed on the white silk. "You came. I knew you would. You understand now, don't you? The city, all of it. It's a deception, a facade. I am merely revealing its true nature, one thread at a time." Corbin and Sharma slowly advanced, their weapons drawn, their voices low but firm. "It's over, Finch. Drop the knife." Finch finally turned, a faint, unsettling smile playing on his lips. His eyes, behind his spectacles, held a manic glint. "Over? No, detective. It has just begun. The final thread. The one that truly binds us all." He gestured to the white silk thread. "This, detective, is a special thread. The thread of consequence. It's tied to the very heart of this library. The main structural support in the West Wing. A single, exquisitely crafted knot, carefully placed. And it's connected to, well, let's just say a very sensitive accelerant. A grand final design. The grandest unraveling of all." Corbin's blood ran cold. Finch wasn't just planning to destroy. He was planning to destroy the symbol itself, the knowledge, the history, the very fabric of the city's identity. The white silk thread wasn't just a symbol. It was a fuse. "You're mad?" Sharma spat, her voice tight with disbelief and fear. "Am I?" Finch countered, his smile widening, his eyes shining with a terrifying conviction. "Or am I merely showing you the fragility of your carefully constructed world? One tug, detective. One simple, elegant tug of this thread, and the entire West Wing, perhaps even the entire building, collapses. A glorious, poetic end to the grand deception." Corbin exchanged a frantic look with Sharma. The library was still open, though sparsely populated at this hour. Evacuating it would be impossible in the time it would take to disable Finch's device. They had to talk him down or disarm him. "Why, Arthur?" Corbin asked, trying to keep his voice level, to find a sliver of the man buried beneath the monster. "Why all of this? What did this city do to you?" Finch's face twisted, the serene smile replaced by a flicker of raw pain and resentment. "It ignored me. It celebrated the flashy, the superficial. My craft, my precision, my art. It was dismissed as quaint, old-fashioned. I was invisible. While they built their glittering towers and drank their overpriced coffee, I sat in my shop, perfecting my work, and no one cared. But now everyone will see. Everyone will remember the weaver." As Finch spoke, his eyes darted towards the hidden alcove, a telltale sign. Sharma, with a silent nod from Corbin, began to slowly, imperceptibly, circle around, using the towering bookshelves as cover. "You're not invisible, Arthur," Corbin tried, pushing through his fear. "Your work is respected. Your knots are infamous now. Everyone knows your name, but not as an artist, as a murderer. Is that truly the legacy you want?" Finch flinched, a chink in his armor. "They will remember the one who unveiled their truth," he shrieked, his composure cracking. He clutched the dagger tighter, his gaze fixed on Corbin. That was the moment. As Finch's attention was momentarily fixed on Corbin, Sharma burst from the shadows of the shelves. She moved with blinding speed, tackling Finch, sending the dagger clattering to the floor. The white silk thread, however, was still taut. A desperate struggle ensued. Finch, despite his unassuming build, fought with a feral strength, fueled by his manic conviction. He bit, scratched, and thrashed, desperately trying to reach the white silk thread that led into the alcove. Corbin joined the fray, pinning Finch down, his years of experience finally overwhelming the killer's raw, untamed rage. They wrestled him to the ground, securing him with zip ties. As they did, Finch continued to scream, not in pain, but in triumph and defiance. "You've merely postponed the inevitable. The threads are already woven. The city will fall." Corbin, gasping for breath, looked at the white silk thread. It was still intact, leading into the alcove. He carefully followed it, his heart pounding. Inside, hidden behind a loose panel, was a crudely fashioned device. A small, antique clockwork mechanism attached to a bundle of wires, leading to a container of highly volatile chemicals. The white silk thread was intricately woven into the mechanism, acting as a tripwire. One tug and the entire device would detonate. With meticulous care, his hands trembling, Corbin disabled the mechanism, cutting the final, deadly thread. The silence that followed was deafening, a sudden cessation of the frantic energy that had consumed them for months. The Verdant Falls Library, the symbol of knowledge and culture, was safe. Arthur Finch, the Midnight Weaver, was finally captured. The unmasking of Finch sent shockwaves through Verdant Falls and across the nation. The quiet, reclusive artisan, whose meticulous work had once been quietly admired, was revealed to be a cold-blooded serial killer, driven by a twisted sense of resentment and a desire for recognition. The trial was a media circus, a morbid spectacle where Dr. Reed's profile, once a chilling hypothesis, became a stark reality, painting a portrait of a man consumed by narcissism and a dark, artistic vision. Finch, calm and unrepentant, delivered chilling monologues about the city's superficiality, cementing his image as a chillingly intelligent and utterly remorseless killer. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to multiple life terms, vanishing from public view as quietly as he had first entered the city's consciousness. The capture of the Midnight Weaver brought an end to the immediate terror, but the scars on Verdant Falls ran deep. The city was forever changed. The casual trust, the sense of security was shattered. People still looked over their shoulders, the memory of the crimson silk knots etched into their collective psyche. Parks and public spaces never quite regained their former ease after dark. Corbin, exhausted but with a profound sense of closure, finally took a much-needed leave of absence. The weight of the case, the darkness he had peered into, had taken its toll. He spent his days with Sarah, trying to rebuild the parts of his life that had frayed. Sharma, however, found a new purpose. The case had hardened her, sharpened her resolve. She stayed, rising through the ranks, her quiet determination now infused with a steel that only a brush with true evil could forge. The legend of the Midnight Weaver became a grim part of Verdant Falls history, a cautionary tale whispered through generations. The elegant knots, the rare silk, the chilling precision they served as a permanent reminder of the shadow that had fallen over the Emerald City, a testament to the fact that even in the most beautiful,